How can I support this franchise? How can I support this movie? Do you remember 2 weeks ago when I said, well, there's a rumored movie that came out? It's rumored that Damon Lindelof was fired, but someone else will come out and it'll be announced at Star Wars Celebration. That time has come and passed. I was saying, depending on the movie, depends on whether or not I'll support it with a movie ticket. Which, if you guys remember, if you've been watching my videos, during the rise of Palpatine, I decided not to pay a movie ticket. Last Jedi had turned me off. I did not want to support this idea, this philosophy of bad movies being created and new writers getting allowed to create whatever they wanted to do. I'm talking about Ryan Johnson having no restrictions to do his second movie, where it killed the main villain of a trilogy. The main villain of a trilogy was killed. The secondary villain, which was Kylo Ren, was seemed to be a victim of the most positive good guy that's ever happened in Star Wars, Luke Skywalker. So they defanged the bad guys, the antagonists of the film. They did that in the second movie. And then here comes a third where it's not Colin Trevorrow anymore. It was rewritten again by J.J. Abrams. So there was three separate visions in a trilogy, an unplanned trilogy. By all accounts, it is confirmed. Interview after interview, we've heard people like Ian McDermott. What's his name? McDermott, is that the name of the Palpatine actor? Well, that guy who was played as the Emperor, he said, like, well, I had no idea what's coming back. I got the call a year ago, and you're like, wait a minute, you got a call a year ago, then this definitely wasn't planned, because they definitely wouldn't have gone in this direction. If you were planned to be here, you wouldn't have just heard about it this year. He said that in an interview leading up to the ninth movie. So I don't want to hear it. This is an unplanned trilogy. So I didn't want to support. I didn't pay my movie ticket. Here we fast forward to Star Wars Celebration of 2023, and the beautiful Daisy Ridley shows up on screen. She's going to be back. And now it's nothing wrong with the character of, the actor of the character. Respect. Even the character. I can see a story where the character is redeemed, done better. But the story that they're giving us is, yeah, you remember the ending of the movie where she puts away those two lightsabers and just goes happily ever after, and she's not going to be, no, she is going to be restoring the Jedi Order 15 years later. We're going from an unplanned events trilogy, ending that trilogy, and we're beginning with, yeah, here's this unplanned thing. Because if Daisy Ridley's character, Rey Palpatine, if she was supposed to be restoring the Jedi Order, we wouldn't have seen her put the stuff in the sand. This is not planned at all. Actually, I just alluded to evidence that shows you the opposite of what you're doing in this new movie was suggested with the ending of your prior movie. It's the same thing. It's the continuation of unplanned, in coordinates, Kathleen Kennedy. And do I want to give this money? I want the trend to continue of downward profits. The first movie, Force Awakens, was a $2 billion hitter. The second one, Last Jedi, was at 1.3, I think. And then the last one, it made $1,050,000,000. So down, 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 it decreased. I'm looking at this, and even with inflation and dollars being worth more, you know what I'm trying to say. With an inflated dollar, the ticket prices here, I still think this might not be a $1 billion movie. I got this movie making, what's my estimation right now? I have no idea. We haven't seen a trailer. I don't know who's casted, really. So I'm just going to say a number. Daisy Ridley starring in a movie. It's going to be Rey, no Finn. I'll just say this movie is going to be a $500 million, because it's still Star Wars, right? I think there's enough people who will watch it, depending on what month it comes out too. If it's coming out in an August, well, didn't Solo come out during August? Ooh, that changes. See, it's way too early to predict. I take back my 500 million prediction. It's way too early. Let's just say that I don't want to be part of the ticket, whatever it is, whatever they say they do. I don't want to be the guy who's complaining, yo, I hate this. I'm not a fan of Kathleen Kennedy. Yet I support something that she is bringing into light and she's very involved in. I'll go watch the Dave Filoni movie. To all the critics right now, well, Chillmonger, you're still supporting Kathleen Kennedy because it's a Lucasfilm and she's the president. Sure, you can tell yourself that, but I know good and well that Dave Filoni, the man there, and buying movie tickets to his movie and seeing it multiple times, if I like it, will be dollars sent to the right way. The direction that it will be moving is forward, and a Dave Filoni trilogy may be possible. Maybe episodes 10, 11, and 12 are going to be his. You know, it would be really cool if Dave Filoni just does the movie that he's gonna do, which is taking place right after this whole Mandalorian stuff that happens. It's gonna kind of be the ending of that, I believe, is what I've been told, what I've been hearing. Then he just does a movie right after, like a couple years later, and then he does a movie right after a couple years later, and we go, hey, that was kind of a sequel trilogy, wasn't it? Because it happens right after Return of the Jedi. It'll be a sequel trilogy. It would be cool if Luke Skywalker appears in the Dave Filoni movie. He doesn't got to be the main character or even the fifth main character. But if he shows up with a little bit of CGI, they've got the technology, the budget is there because it's a film. Mark Hamill approves of it. I got no complaints. They could do a whole Luke Skywalker recast, which would seem different to me, off-putting because Luke Skywalker was being played by Mark Hamill when he's younger for 3 movies. And we know that Mark Hamill's going to return to play Luke Skywalker, so that's how he's going to look, 30 years later in the that sequel era. So if there's another actor playing Mark Hamill in between and he looks different, playing Luke Skywalker and he looks different than Mark Hamill, that would be off-putting, hard to swallow, not necessarily needed. The cameo, small little CGI deep fake Luke Skywalkers are enough for me, especially if he's only going to be here for a short time. If they ever want to do an animated show, by the way, of Luke Skywalker at his Jedi Academy, go get Mark Hamill to play the voice. He's good at voice acting. That's my Mark Hamill inclusion. But this new Dave Filoni movie, I'm all for it. I can give my money there and not even sweat it. It's the second coming of George Lucas, or as close as we can get from that. David Filoni. This guy's really good at movie making, and I can support that. And I know that the more money I give Dave Filoni movie, in contrast to the new Ray film, which we don't even have a title for, probably should have got a title, honestly. This new film, it'll compare. We'll be able to say, well, look, the Dave movie is good, makes all that money. It's a good story. People were behind it. It pays for your Disney Plus series to lead to consequential things in movie theaters. Like the lesson that will be learned from a profitable Filoni film, the Mandalorian era film, would be to my benefit of my storytelling style of preference. And then we get the Ray stuff 15 years after her last movie, disjointed as it is. The less move money this makes, the more reason it is not to have Kathleen Kennedy, the president anymore. Not that we need any more reasons, but it'll be the final nail in the coffin. It'll be confirmation that the last trilogy was dirt. This woman is 68 or 69, one of those. People retire at the age of 65. Perfectly good reason for Kennedy to take a bow and leave. We don't got to see Kennedy in any public forums or events until I guess she'll show up in the red carpet, and then Star Wars Celebration Japan is 2 years from now. That's it, bro. That's basically it. And back to Dave Filoni, Kathleen Kennedy being the president doesn't affect Filoni at all. Filoni's been able to do whatever he wanted. He kind of produces the Bad Batch show. He has a say in Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett. He's got a say in some of the Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew. Whether Kennedy's there or not, it has not seemed to stifle this Dave Filoni direction. The only thing is with her in charge, it means that we're getting things we don't want. But it doesn't mean having her in charge means I wasn't getting things that I did want. The Dave Filoni stuff is happening with Jon Favreau, Rick Famuyiwa, and the other people who are contributing to great Star Wars stuff during this Disney owned era. I just want to let that be known. But with Kathleen Kennedy out, maybe they don't say, what would be really cool? An Andor show or a Kenobi show. Kenobi, where they make it really hard for you to digest that Kenobi actually met Princess Leia when she was younger. That threw me way off. I'm sorry, I don't know. I couldn't do it. The person who's going to be in charge might actually know stuff about direction, planning, it won't be Kathleen Kennedy. And I feel like not supporting this film, watching it on bootleg, is better. I'm just worried again about the 15-year thing. I'll iterate that 15 years is a lot of time to do a lot of damage. If you wanted, one thing I liked about the sequel trilogy, which was 3 movies that was contained within about 2 years, because the first and the second movies happened about a day apart from each other, which I was mad about at the time, but I'm glad that they only had like a couple of years between those 2 movies. And then the next one, Rise of Palpatine, that was like a 2-year span of movie. Good. You can only muck up things in the Star Wars galaxy for that long. That's how much time it took. But to go 15 years, like I don't want them to set something in stone, set something in place that affects the whole entirety of Star Wars. And you got 15 years to do it. Ugh. The advancements in technology which they'll introduce that may be more difficult to swallow, like you can be able to be tracked during hyperspeed. That changes the dynamic of Star Wars, doesn't it? And in 15 years, what else could have happened that we'll see when the movie begins? I don't know. I hope that her movie just stays within her own part of Star Wars. Characters that are introduced are brand new and not old ones. I know Mark Hamill's not going to show up to be a Force Ghost. I know that. That guy is done with his contract and this producer for sure. No matter how good his relationship is with Daisy, I don't think he's coming back for that. So hopefully they do not desecrate the character of Luke Skywalker in this film. I also hope they don't use Grogu, but who knows what they'll do with Grogu, man. Whatever. Let's imagine it's just speculation that Grogu is cast. The voice actor for Grogu stinks, and now we're stuck with Grogu having this voice. I wouldn't want for that. I would want like there's so much damage that could be done. Is all I'm saying with this 15-year time skip. It's worrisome. Too much power lies in the hands of someone who's shown me cannot produce good Star Wars. Daisy Ridley's character can be redeemed, of course. That's a good best case scenario. I would love for this movie to be the greatest film that's ever happened. I also would like for it not to make money. And I mentioned something in that prior video that was like, hey, I don't know if I should watch it or not. So should I want this to flop or not? I mentioned this point. We've had so few black leads or anyone who's not white in a Star Wars film. And maybe if there was a film that Kathleen Kennedy produces that she's involved with, but at least the lead is a little bit like a skin tone that's dark. Something to be different from the other Star Wars films, the other major feature films that get all this attention. Maybe then I would have to struggle of whether or not I should support this. And now I don't have to struggle that. It's going to be the same skin tone that's always been in Star Wars. I'm not fearful of what are the ramifications of this. Will it send a message that a Star Wars film with people who have melanated skin tones won't sell? I don't got to worry about that. What reason do I have? I throw that to you if you're listening. Type a comment. I'm Chillmonger. Thank you for supporting and watching. If you already clicked thumbs up, look at you, man. You're just out here being a nice guy, helping Chillmonger. If you're someone who just thumbs up now, all right, you're cool. You're cool, but you're not as good as those first group. And if you're someone who's not going to thumbs up the video, got to this point, and you're like, oh, what is he? Oh, he's trying to do the whole, let me get the guy to thumbs up. And you're not going to thumbs me up? Listen, I don't like you. The only difference between you and me not liking each other is I get to tell you that and you have nothing to say back to me. You can't say a single word back to me. I win. I have insulted you. Watch this. I'm going to say something mean about your mom. I hate your mom. You have nothing to say. Didn't thumbs up my video. Got insulted. Got your mom. Got into this. And there's nothing you can do about it. You non-thumbser upper. This only applies to the people who don't thumbs up. If you did thumbs up by now, you're good. You're good. Bye.